Your 20s aren't what you think they are. That perfectly filtered path you see everyone following. It's not real. It's just a highlight reel. Today, let's talk about what actually matters, not what the world tells you should matter. The biggest freedom of your 20s isn't having everything figured out. It's realizing nobody does. We're told success in your 20s means checking all the boxes. Graduate by 22, career by 23, relationship by 25, house by 28, kids by 30. But behind those perfect Instagram posts, most people are experimenting, failing, starting over, and feeling exactly like you do. Uncertain. That's not a flaw. That's the whole point. The difference between people who thrive in their 20s and those who just survive it, it's not perfect planning. It's being okay with the uncertainty. I've talked to so many people in their 30s and 40s about their 20s, and I always ask, what do you wish you had known back then? No one ever says, I wish I had it all figured out. Instead, they say, I wish I had worried less. I wish I had tried more things. I wish I had known. The winding path is the path. Your 20s aren't the final performance. They're the dress rehearsal, where mistakes are normal and valuable. So, what actually matters first? Unlearning the myth that you need to have it all figured out. This one mindset shift will free you to explore, to experiment, to evolve, without the pressure to be perfect. This isn't going according to plan. That's not failure. That is the plan. We're all scrolling through curated lives, wondering why ours feels so messy. But behind the filters, everyone's figuring it out, one unsure step at a time. There's a secret club of 20-somethings, and every member is silently panicking about life, while pretending they've got it together. You're not alone in this chaos. Actually, it's kind of beautiful. Remember that awful feeling when someone younger than you got promoted? Yeah, we need to talk about comparison, because it's the fastest way to kill your joy. Isn't it funny how we expect to have our entire life mapped out, when half of us still don't know if we're loading the dishwasher right? Chapter 1. The Decade of Self-Discovery. Your 20s are the ultimate decade of self-discovery. No other time in life gives you this much freedom to explore who you are and who you might become. And here's the truth. You should be running lots of experiments. Self-discovery isn't something that just happens one day. It's an ongoing, active, evolving process. And your 20s, they're the best time to dive into it. You're independent enough to make your own choices, but flexible enough that those choices don't yet define your whole future. The goal isn't to find your one true self. It's to explore the many versions of you that could exist. Each experience, each relationship, each environment reveals something new about who you are. And despite what social media tells you, changing your mind is not a weakness. It's growth. Instead of asking yourself, what should I do with my life? Ask something simpler. What can I try next? Maybe it's a ceramics class that awakens a creative side you never knew you had, or a solo trip to a new city where nobody knows your name and you get to reinvent yourself just for a while. Or maybe it's a job in an industry that completely flips your assumptions about what actually matters in work. Each one of these is an experiment, and every experiment gives you something valuable, not final answers, but clues. Clues about who you are. So, what actually matters in your 20s? Creating enough self-knowledge to make choices that reflect who you really are, not who you think you're supposed to be. The person who tries 10 different paths ends up knowing themselves far better than the one who sticks to just one, out of fear or pressure or comfort. We've all seen that person who's been in the same job since college and quietly wonders what might have been possible. Don't let that be your story. The most interesting people in any room, they're almost always the ones who've taken unconventional paths, tried multiple careers, lived in different places, and failed a lot. Ever found yourself lying awake at night asking, is this really what I want to be doing with my life? That question doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're ready to explore. We spend more time researching which Netflix show to watch next than we do exploring new career options, and then wonder why our job feels like we're playing a character in someone else's script. Chapter 2. Who you keep matters more than how many. Let's be real for a second. Not all relationships deserve equal investment. Your 20s are when you learn a hard, but freeing truth. Relationship quality always beats quantity. Back in your teens, friendships happened through proximity. Same school, same hobbies, same neighborhood. But your 20s, they introduce something new. Intentional connection. This is the decade where you finally start to see the difference between convenience connections and soul connections. The people who fuel you versus the ones who drain you. The ones who cheer for your growth versus the ones who secretly wish you'd stay the same. And most importantly, you realize that strong relationships don't just happen. They take effort. They need investment. Just like with money, the relationships you invest in will either compound in value or drain your emotional energy, little by little. Some are high maintenance with low return. Others, they give you deep support, growth, and joy, without demanding everything in return. So, the real question isn't, how do I keep everyone in my life? It's, which relationships are actually worth growing? That friend who always lifts your spirit? Invest. That group that leaves you mentally drained? Divest. Your energy and time are limited. You have to spend them where growth is mutual, where love flows both ways. What actually matters in your 20s isn't having the flashiest social circle. It's building a real support system where everyone pushes each other to be better, stronger, braver, and yes, outgrowing old relationships is scary, but it also opens space for the kinds of connections that will hold you steady. When life gets messy, really messy, strong relationships aren't just nice to have. They're essential to your well-being. We've all stayed in friendships or relationships way past their expiration date, hoping something would change. But the relief that comes when you finally let go? Unmatched. Study after study shows that people with close, healthy relationships are happier and live longer, more than wealth, more than status, even more than physical health alone. And if you've ever scrolled through your contacts and realized you haven't spoken to most of them in years, that's not failure. It's just evolution. We'll spend hours debating whether to keep a $30 shirt we never wear. But we avoid asking the hard question. Should I keep a relationship that's hurting me? Marie Kondo would be horrified if she saw what's hiding in most of our relationship closets. Chapter 3. Mastering money before it masters you. Your bank account in your 20s might be small, but your financial decisions right now, they're massively powerful. The habits you build today, they'll either become your greatest ally or your biggest burden for decades to come. Here's the problem. Most of us were never taught financial literacy in school, but it's one of the most important life skills you'll ever need. And your 20s, they're the perfect time to build your financial foundation. Not because you're making tons of money, but because you have something even more powerful: time. In finance, time is everything. The magic of compound interest means that small, steady steps now can lead to massive results later. It's not about getting rich quick. It's not about flexing or impressing anyone. It's about creating future freedom, the freedom to make choices that actually make you happy. The goal isn't deprivation. It's intentionality, spending in ways that bring long-term value, not just short-term satisfaction. Let's say you invest just $200 a month, starting at age 25. By the time you're 65, you could have about $650,000, assuming an 8% average return. But if you wait until 35 to start, you'll end up with only $295,000. That 10-year delay, it costs you over $350,000. The point isn't to never enjoy your money. It's understanding that every dollar you touch carries potential energy. Building simple systems, like automatic transfers to savings or investments, takes willpower out of the equation entirely. That's how real peace of mind begins. Your 20s are the time to learn what's an asset that builds value and what's a liability that quietly drains it. What actually matters isn't how much you earn. It's the mindset you develop about money. Because financial freedom isn't about being rich. It's about having options. The option to say no, to walk away, to choose purpose over pressure. And the best investment? It's not in crypto or stocks. It's in your own financial education. We've all made that impulsive late-night purchase that felt urgent in the moment, and then just vanished from our memory 2 weeks later. Meanwhile, our future self is whispering, "You could have invested that." The wealth gap between those who understand compound interest and those who don't. It grows faster than most people realize. And by the time you're in midlife, the difference isn't just numbers, it's lifestyle. Remember that sinking feeling when you check your bank balance after a weekend out? Yeah. Financial peace comes from systems, not willpower. We'll spend 2 hours watching YouTube reviews to save $5 on a gadget, but we won't spend 20 minutes learning how retirement accounts or investments work, even though that knowledge could be worth thousands, even millions. Chapter 4. The body you build in your 20s is the one you'll live in. Your body in your 20s is like a reliable car that keeps running, even if you treat it terribly. But don't be fooled. You're not invincible. You're just running on factory settings, and those won't last forever. Youth gives you the illusion that you can get away with anything. But this decade, it's when you quietly start building the health baseline you'll return to for the rest of your life. The physical and mental habits you form now, they become your default programming. And every year that passes, that programming gets harder and harder to rewrite. The goal isn't to chase some perfect version of health. It's to make intentional investments in your most valuable asset, your health. Because here's the truth. Bad habits don't show up right away. They silently build in the background, like shadows growing longer. But good habits, they quietly build resilience, energy, and strength, the kind you'll need later. Your future self, they're either silently thanking you for today's decisions or whispering, "Why didn't you start sooner?" And we're not talking extremes here, just the basics: movement, sleep, stress management, nutrition. These aren't about looking good for Instagram. They're the building blocks of your mood, your energy, your focus, and your long-term health. And mental health. It deserves just as much attention. Learning how to feel emotions, how to set boundaries, how to ask for help. These are skills, not signs of weakness. Even something as small as a 5-minute daily meditation can give you years of mental clarity. And guess what? You don't need perfection. You need consistency. Imperfect effort, repeated regularly, always beats occasional bursts of perfection. What actually matters isn't having the perfect body or a stress-free life. It's building a foundation of health habits that last. Because the relationship you build with your body and mind in your 20s, that's one of the longest and most important relationships you'll ever have. So treat it with the care and attention it deserves. We all know someone who still eats like a college student in their 30s, but doesn't bounce back like they used to. Your metabolism? Yeah. It's taking notes on everything you do. The world's longest living cultures don't obsess over fitness. They just integrate movement, real food, and deep connections into their everyday life. Remember the first time you realized you couldn't stay out all night and feel normal the next day? That was your body whispering, "Hey, I'm not 19 anymore. Start listening." Chapter 5. Careers aren't ladders, they're labyrinths. The question, what do you want to be when you grow up, assumes there's just one right answer. But what if your career path isn't a straight road, but a constellation of experiences? The old model, pick a lane, stay in it for 40 years, retire with a gold watch, is as outdated as a fax machine. Today's world, it rewards something very different: adaptability, curiosity, transferable skills. And your 20s, they're the perfect playground to explore multiple paths, build skills that move with you, and discover work that actually fits your strengths and energy. Here's the truth. The biggest mistake you can make in your 20s isn't choosing the wrong job. It's staying in the wrong one too long, just because you're scared to start over. Every job, even the awful ones, teaches you something. Sometimes it's a valuable skill. Sometimes it's clarity on what you never want to do again. That boring sales job? It might sharpen your communication skills. That chaotic startup could teach you more in 12 months than 5 years at a big-name company. Instead of obsessing over the question, "Is this my dream job?" try asking, "What can I learn here that will serve me wherever I go next?" Because modern careers aren't ladders, they're ecosystems, portfolios of skills, projects, networks, and insights that evolve over time. And what actually matters in your 20s isn't landing the perfect job. It's gaining clarity around what you're good at, what you enjoy, and what the world is willing to pay you for. That intersection is gold, but it takes time and exploration to find it. The earlier you start trying things, the sooner you stop wondering, what if? Your career is a marathon, not a sprint, and no one wins it by burning out at mile 2. We've all had that moment in a job interview, pretending this role is our lifelong dream, when really, we just need rent money and a place to grow. Guess what? That's okay. The real growth doesn't happen during the interview. It happens after you get in the door. The average person changes jobs 12 times in their life. So, if you're still searching for your thing, you're not behind. You're right on schedule. Career exploration isn't a sign of failure. It's the new normal in a world that changes fast. Ever felt that Sunday night dread creeping in before work? That's not just adulting, that's data. Your emotions are trying to tell you something about fit and fulfillment. We'll spend an hour researching the best place to eat tonight, but won't spend 15 minutes researching where we spend 40+ hours a week, and then wonder why the job feels like soul-crushing micromanagement with a side of burnout? It's time to pay attention. Chapter 6. Learn like your life depends on it, because it does. Your formal education may be over, but your real education, it's just getting started. The most important skill you can build in your 20s, not coding, not design, not marketing, it's this: learning how to learn. In a world that's shifting faster than ever, your ability to keep learning, unlearning, and relearning is your most valuable edge. This decade, it's your transition point, from compulsory learning to curiosity-driven learning. It's not about school anymore. It's about becoming a self-powered learner, someone who seeks out what they don't know, someone who lives in questions, not just answers. The mindset shift is subtle, but powerful, from "I should know this already" to "I get to learn this now," and that shift, it changes everything. It turns every challenge into a chance, every confusion into a clue. The goal isn't to rack up degrees or certifications, it's to build mental flexibility, so you can adapt when things don't go as planned, because they rarely do. Right now, your brain is still incredibly neuroplastic, which means it's primed for change. This is your learning window. Use it. Read books that have nothing to do with your job. Take a free online course just because it sparked your curiosity. Turn commutes into classrooms with podcasts. These aren't distractions. They're investments in your cognitive infrastructure. And here's a big one. Deliberately seek out ideas that challenge you, not just the ones that pat your brain on the back. Growth doesn't live in comfort zones. Ask questions. Admit when you don't know. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, and be bold enough to learn from them. The breadth of what you learn now creates the foundation for depth later. Because what actually matters in your 20s, it isn't how much you know, it's how capable you are of learning what's next. The humility to say, "I don't know, but I'll find out," is worth so much more than confidently spouting something outdated. We've all been in conversations where we nodded along like we understood, when really, we didn't. And that momentary ego protection, it cost us something real. It cost us learning. The most successful people in every field share one unshakable trait. They're never done learning. Ever. They walk into every room, every conversation, every problem, with curiosity, not ego. You know that moment when you realize you thought you understood something, and then saw how deep the rabbit hole really goes? That discomfort? It's not failure. It's the door to real growth, swinging wide open. It's funny. We graduate and say, "I'm done learning," right as life begins throwing pop quizzes with real stakes and no study guide. Welcome to adulthood, where the tests come first, and the lessons, they come after. Chapter 7. Becoming the person you rely on. Independence. It's not just about paying your own bills. It's about building the kind of inner strength that lets you handle life's complexities, without needing someone to hold your hand every time. Your 20s mark that quiet shift from depending on others to becoming someone others can depend on, starting with yourself. This isn't just financial independence, though that's part of it. It's also emotional, practical, intellectual. It's learning to trust your own judgment, to recover from failure, to solve problems without waiting for permission. It's not about isolation. It's about interdependence, where the people in your life are there by choice, not because you feel helpless without them. Every time you face a problem head-on, instead of reaching for your phone to ask someone else, you build a new layer of confidence. "I've figured it out on my own," it strengthens that muscle, one rep at a time. Practical independence starts with small things. Cooking meals that actually fuel you, keeping your living space clean and functioning, managing your time, fixing a leak or unclogging a drain, navigating transportation in a city you don't know. These might feel mundane, but they build something big: self-trust. Emotional independence means you don't need constant validation to feel okay. You can ride the emotional waves without drowning in them. You learn to sit with discomfort, to name your feelings, and move forward without needing someone else to carry you. Financial independence doesn't mean you're wealthy. It means you understand the difference between what you need and what you want, and you build systems that cover your basics before chasing luxuries. Every win counts. Fixing something that broke, making a decision you used to avoid, handling a situation that once scared you. That confidence, it compounds, quietly, steadily. What actually matters in your 20s isn't reaching some mythic milestone of independence overnight. It's choosing, over and over, to become more self-sufficient. Even when it's uncomfortable, the independence you build now, it becomes the ground you'll stand on for decades. It gives you the power to both give and receive support, without ever feeling like you've lost yourself. We've all had that mini crisis. Something breaks, and the first instinct, to call someone else. But when you solve it yourself, that pride is unforgettable. That's the moment you realize you can handle more than you thought. Adulthood doesn't arrive with a diploma or a job title. It arrives slowly, in 100 tiny acts of ownership, of responsibility, of showing up for yourself when no one's watching. Remember the first time you assembled a piece of furniture without help, or figured out how to navigate a city in a new country. That quiet, earned confidence, it stays with you, because your 20s are full of duality. You'll feel like you could run a company one day, and the next, you're Googling how to tell if chicken is fully cooked for the 15th time. That's not failure, that's becoming. Chapter 8. Play the long game? Let's be real for a second. We live in a world that's obsessed with right now. Fast results, quick wins, overnight success. And if you're in your 20s, that pressure to figure it all out immediately can feel overwhelming. But here's the truth no one tells you. Your 20s aren't the finish line. They're the starting blocks. The most fulfilled people later in life, they're not the ones who won their 20s. They're the ones who use this decade to set up the long game. In a culture built on instant gratification, playing the long game is practically an act of rebellion. But it's also the most powerful investment you can make. Your 20s are about laying the groundwork, the mental, emotional, financial, and personal infrastructure that will support you for decades. And that infrastructure, it doesn't always look flashy. It might look like studying something that expands your mind, even if it doesn't lead to a job tomorrow. Choosing relationships that stretch and challenge you, not just validate you. Saying yes to roles that build capabilities, instead of chasing titles that just boost your LinkedIn. At first, these choices might not look impressive, but over time, they compound. The irony? The people chasing only quick wins often find themselves circling the same block for years. But the ones who plant seeds early, they're the ones reaping exponential returns later. What starts as a small edge today becomes the defining advantage of tomorrow. But here's what's rarely talked about. Playing the long game takes emotional grit. You'll have to make peace with the delayed gratification, the unseen progress, the haunting feeling that everyone else is getting ahead faster than you. You'll have to tune out the noise, the flashy announcements, the curated milestones, the constant highlight reels, and instead, trust the quiet compounding of your own journey. Because this isn't just about career or money. The long game applies to your health, relationships, personal growth, emotional stability, legacy. Each of these areas rewards those who think beyond the next dopamine hit and aim for depth, longevity, and meaning. So ask yourself, are the choices I'm making today expanding or limiting my future options? Because the most rewarding paths in life, they often start with decisions that feel uncomfortable now, but lead to massive freedom later. The wild night out might feel good today, but the good sleep, the morning workout, the clarity, that pays dividends years down the line. Your 20s are your training ground. They're where you build the habits, relationships, and mindset that your future self will either celebrate or struggle to fix. So yes, be present, live fully, try things, but never forget. Every choice is either a short-term comfort or a long-term investment, and the better life, it's built by those who play the long game, even when no one is watching.